Good evening, world. Hello, welcome to our very first show, our episode 1 of the Pan-Asian show. Our host, Anisa, is at the bottom here. Hi, Anisa. And our special guest,
Hi.
Ouarda, is to our left. Hi, Ouarda. How's it
Hi.
down there?
It's fine. It's a little bit cold.
Right,
Yeah, it's really cold today.
summertime. And can we tell the world where you guys are at?
We're in the Netherlands.
Yes.
You want to be more?
We are from the south of Netherlands.
South of the southern part of the Netherlands. So it's a little cold. I mean, it looks like the sun is still shining bright about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well, it's not really sunny, but it's just been really cold. It's just been raining, and it's just not fun.
Yeah, the sun is still on, but it's going down soon.
Okay, right. So that is the weather in the Netherlands during the summertime, in the midst of the summertime. That's just the Nordic weather. What can we say? It's still beautiful down there, though. I've been watching a lot of travel stuff about the Netherlands and Europe because I'm dreaming about traveling again. I can't wait.
Same here.
Yeah, I can't wait to go traveling, for real.
So how are you guys handling the pandemic? What's going on down there? I know there's Sweden is doing it their way. How are you guys handling it down there?
Well, here
Well-
the numbers are dropping, so to me, it's not really back to normal, but it's a lot better. You can just go to the store. You don't have to wear a mask, so it's getting back to normal.
Well,
slowly.
we do have to wear our mask in public transport.
Okay. Well, we are wearing masks because it is going crazy down here. I mean, we have so many things going on. It's unbelievable. And it's kind of like everyone has to just step it up. We're like behind. We're supposed to be like we're supposed to be the biggest country, right? But we're like the dumbest country right now. No one can get it together. Terrible.
But it's so strange because it started in Europe, it was Italy, and then it didn't really break out in the United States yet. But now we're like recovering, and you guys are like at the peak right now.
We're just a bunch of dumbasses, man. It's like literally, look at, everybody knows what they have to do. Yes, we had all these holidays, right, that came up through the summertime, and we were already quarantined for like 2 months, almost 3 months. And the moment that they gave us the thumbs up for, to get back out there, everybody just took advantage of it. And also we had, this whole Black Lives Matters movement down here, but we'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later in this episode. So
Yes, just like JCool mentioned, and we are going to talk about the BLM movement here. This is one of the topics we are going to talk about. And yeah, of course, BLM isn't only happening in America. The Netherlands has also had its own twist on it, because the BLM movement going viral here, we suddenly realized, hey, this problem is also appearing in the Netherlands, obviously. So yeah, therefore I would like to kick off the first question to Ouarda. Like, would you like to share your thoughts on the anti-racism movement in the Netherlands right now?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I feel like it started a couple of years ago. I feel like it was like 2014 or something when it started with the whole anti-Black Pete movement.
Yeah, Black
Pete. It really took off after the Black Lives Matter movement a couple of weeks ago. So I'm really happy that it did because I feel like it was long overdue.
Yeah, so what is the population of Black folks down there? Is it a big population or a smaller population out of all the immigrants there?
I feel like it kind of depends. When you go like more to the bigger cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, it's a big population. But here where we live, more down south in the Netherlands, it's not. For me, my high school, elementary school, I was one of the few Black students there, so it wasn't really that diverse.
Right, and let's just and let's just make it a little clear. You are Moroccan, right?
Well, on my dad's side, I'm Moroccan. My mom's African American and Dutch.
That's awesome. So yeah, we need that clarity. So yeah, because I think it's yes, there is this systemic racism that we have to deal with, especially if you are of an immigrant descent, and that's something that most countries and most societies are, they think that they pass a few laws, they let you, they do, they fix the housing situation, everyone is employed, everyone's making money, but that underlying layer, well, it eats away at the opportunities where we all want that equal opportunity, the it kind of seeps into the justice system, education, housing, and the opportunities that we all want, in our country. So what do you feel about that?
No, can I answer? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like about like 50 years ago when my grandfather was still living in the United States, racism was very clear and people just said, okay, I don't want to serve you because you're black. But now it's like that's not socially acceptable anymore, but people still have that kind of mindset. So they kind of try to be polite about it, but still feel that way. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, actually, here there was this huge news topic about the Dutch IRS, that they were double checking people with a foreign last name. And that's just how far racism has gotten, that you just, right. You don't say it in people's faces, but systematically, or it's still happening.
Yeah, what the problem is with the Netherlands, like racism here isn't really as vocal as it is in America, but the thing is, like, here, what's going on here a lot is silent racism.
Right. Yeah. And racism, it just ties into immigration, right? It just ties into so I think that's what we're all dealing with, even with the immigration stuff that's going on. And yeah, I mean, what's even scary is that, just like you said, it's not out there. Well, it's kind of rearing its head everywhere now. But yes, all the quiet racism, all the unsaid stuff, that's the scary part, especially when everyone is trying to live a better life. There's always that ceiling, and a lot of the times it's, the underlying reason why we can't get up there is because certain people don't want us up there or having those opportunities,
But I feel like a huge part of that is the lack of diversity in these big companies, in the media. We can't really get in there in that space because there's no one's really trying to help us, and we're not represented properly.
Yeah.
So here it's like the news media, most of the news anchors and the people in the, the bigger jobs are Caucasian, and it's hard to really get represented properly if you're not there and you're not speaking up.
Right.
Yeah, what's a bit troubling for me is when I look in the media and debates about anti-racism, why do I see that the entire set is full of Caucasians and maybe one black person, but
you know what's strange though? Okay, strange though? It's kind of flipping a bit. Here in America, like if you watch all the bigger media stuff, they're just starting to slapping on more African Americans, right? More Asians and Latino. All of a sudden, they're just all trying to flip it, but it's so apparent what they're trying to do. It's like as soon as it start, boom, everybody's like, yeah. So that's good in a sense, right? But look, there's not going to be a seamless transition, right? It just has to happen. Everyone's going to have an opinion about it. And I'm kind of glad it's kind of happening, but let's just kind of go back on the Black Lives Matters movement thing. One thing that I think, because I'm a first generation Filipino, right? And I understood immediately, especially in the neighborhood that I grew up in. It was a mix. It was the way the city was demographically broken down. They put all the immigrants in the lower income areas, but it wasn't like lower income. It was almost at the time it was almost like middle class, right? So there was a lot of professional Black, Asians, and Mexicans, right? So it was kind of cool to be in that neighborhood, and I was heavily influenced by Black Black culture, you know, Mexican culture, right? And so, you know, I was blessed in that way to be infused in that. Did you guys have that opportunity to be in a diverse type of mixed cultural mix area?
Well, no, for me, not really. Like I live in a very white environment. Like I've been the only Asian in so many places already that I can't count.
Yeah, the Netherlands are like,
Yeah, especially the south.
right. Order?
Well, it's the same for me, actually. I feel like the only real diversity that I had around me was my family. But I
Right.
feel
Yeah, me
like,
too.
but at school, it was not really that diverse at all,
Right.
especially not at jobs.
Right. Yeah, 'cause,
Oh,
where I live in the Bay Area, it's kind of weird because, you know, about 5 minute drive over the Bay Bridge or San Francisco Bridge is San Francisco. That's where all the elites live. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird how the government or the state just, it's how they control housing. And I know that how government works because I'm in the real estate business, right? I own a real estate. And the thing is, it's just, I found out quickly how the city just, how they just, yeah, basically sectioned off certain parts of the city and area for certain people. You know what I mean? And with, I don't know if gentrification is big there, where, you know, where people buy up the housing in the lower income housing, right, areas, and then, you know, rents go up and housing goes up, and then everyone, where does everyone go after that, you know? So I don't know, is gentrification big in your in the Netherlands?
Well, in Amsterdam, definitely is, because I'm trying to get out of where I live because it's so small and I want a little bit more like diversity around me.
Right.
But it's so hard to get into like an Amsterdam type of situation
really
because people, these old buildings, the rent is skyrocketed. It's horrible.
yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I think, again, I think racism bleeds into, I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to keep calling it racism because it is racism, classism, just so many isms, right? It's
Yeah.
we just aren't a part of we aren't helping make that decision. You know what I'm saying? We don't have enough representation, like you said, and yeah, we just aren't part of that decision making. You know, here in California, especially in California, we're like we tout and we have pride in diversity. Yes, we are like heavily diverse, right? And we're like a really progressive state, but still, it's like the lack of representation, the lack of having a seat at the table to help make those decisions for us. You know, we're just tired of like white old dudes making decisions for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't mind if like a white older woman make decisions, because I know the woman would be a little bit more sensitive. You know, be more empathetic to the problems. You know what I'm saying? But when it's old white dudes making making the decisions, it doesn't benefit everybody. I don't know. What do you guys think about that concept? Having more women in charge, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Don't you feel like it has gotten worse ever since Trump became president? You know, the whole situation, people just are very open about their racism all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's very acceptable now to say certain things that you wouldn't have said a couple of years ago.
Right. Anisa?
Yeah, I see it happening a lot ever since Trump became president. You know, because people see a person of power like being spouting nonsense openly,
Right.
and yeah, the people will agree on the things he's saying. They are like that they have someone to look up to, and then suddenly they become more open to that, like justify themselves, like the president is also like this.
Right. And you know, it's kind of an odd thing here because like, Black Lives, the Black Lives Matter movement is really it is lighting off. It is kind of relighting a lot of old feelings from people that just kind of pretended that or didn't think that they were racist, but certain things pop up like that one white lady that was walking her dog,
No.
right, and the black guy and the black guy that was trying to, I guess, appreciate, or he was appreciate birds or whatever, right? You know what? I think she, in any normal circumstance, would not have said that, right? But that racial, that thing, that go-to thing that white people go to, you know what I'm saying? It's like a go-to thing, It's like, why does that have to be your go-to? How come we can't be like, I'm embarrassed, my fault. Yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, I'm gonna call the police. I'm gonna tell them it's a black man, and I'm like, oh,
aggressive. That's the favorite word.
like, why does that have to be your go-to?
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know why people walk why those people walk on the streets and they see one person of color and they're like, yes, you let me go. You do that.
I don't know, but I read online, I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that there was this new law put in place that if you call the police on like racially things, that it's gonna be like a charge or something, because it's getting out of hand right now.
Yes, and that's the whole thing. You can't call in for false charges, dude. And then also it's kind of like it's almost empowering. This whole Black Lives Matter movement is also empowering white people by saying like white power. You know what I'm like? Oh man, it's kind of going. It's kind of crazy here right now because everyone, because they're painting the Black Lives Matter murals on the street, and they actually painted it in front of the Trump Tower in New York, which is like so inflammatory. I'm like, God, anyways. But here in California, this white couple kind of defaced that. There was this Black Lives Matter mural, right? And they just painted black on it, right? Which is so it still says Black Lives Matter, but instead of being yellow, it's like black. But I'm like, dude, like, because everyone is tearing down all the monuments of Confederate leaders and stuff, and white people just doesn't have it together. Like, there's a reason why those Confederate monuments are being brought down.
That's a big thing here now too. People are bringing down all these like golden age.
The
pirates. Sorry.
Right.
I don't really know what to say.
Yeah. Tell me about, what did the pirates do up there? Did they do the exact same thing that they did, like what Christopher Columbus did here? Is that what they basically did?
Oh yeah, we have here like a few, like 300 years ago, we had here the Golden Age. So like the Dutch used to colonize half of the world, and people were proud of that and called it the Golden Age. And and there was this one organization, the VOC. They traded a lot, and in the colonized countries, with Indonesia being one of them.
Right.
And like for years, they always portrayed the VOC as heroes, and like the 17th century, look at what amazing things the Netherlands did conquering the world. But it was always troubling for me to learn that in history class, because they're talking so positively about the time when they colonized my ancestors.
Right.
And that feeling is, gladly that feeling is nowadays more and more shared by people. Like, we have had petitions to erase the name Golden Age because it wasn't that golden, and also a lot of Dutch people were actually poor at the time, so it only benefited the elite actually.
Right. Always been small, the small few, So.
Yeah, it's like there were actually a lot of poor people here, so it wasn't that golden at all. And we also see here happening like monuments of the VOC being demolished, just like in America.
Right.
So it's kind of the same.
Well, hey, but check it out. But they can say the same thing about Mongolians, right? The Mongolians ruled almost all of like Europe and Asia at one point. But the thing is this, that there aren't like a ton of Mongolian monuments.
No.
Everyone's not like saying, "Oh, Mongolians are like the."
I wonder if there's even a
best.
Genghis Khan monument.
Right. And that's the difference. It's like, okay, that's part of history. Everyone pick and choose. Ouarda?
Did you guys see that video about that black gentleman for the school in Belarus or something? I think it was called. But Connie was internet shopping, and he was. Didn't you guys see that video?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. Enlighten us, please.
Talk about it, girl. Talk about it.
Well,
Enlighten us.
actually, the video. Well, now I want to know his name. But there was this black gentleman, and it was a high school that was named after a slave owner, and there were parents trying to get the name, removed. And one of the people that was actually in the council that was, supposed to listen to the story, she was internet shopping while people was telling their story and how much it hurt them. And he just had this amazing speech. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely watch it after this whole interview. But it was, yeah. You can really hear the pain in his voice, and that's, I think, what a lot of people that are non-people of color don't understand, the pain behind it.
Mm.
Well, so Anisa, she brought up the Korean gentleman that got kicked in the face.
Yes.
That kind of started the whole movement there. Let's talk about that a little bit.
What kind of movement do you mean, the movement with because I think that started a little earlier, right? Because this was
earlier.
No, I'm referring to the BLM movement have been there longer than that, but this was actually the start of an anti-racism movement against Asians, especially.
Yeah,
because the Korean.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what this coronavirus has sparked up against Asians, real quick.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what happened with this Korean gentleman that was assaulted, right?
Yeah, like what happened to him was exactly like what's happening for months right now, because like people blaming Asians for starting the coronavirus pandemic.
And it was a damn our president that sparked this whole thing. I mean, I don't want to say it sparked it, but it put it in a lot of white people's head that it's the Asians people's fault.
Just because it originated in China doesn't mean that the Chinese started it. It's not like they wanted a pandemic.
Right.
Ever since he said the Chinese virus, it was on.
Kung flu.
Right. Yeah, that oh dude. And the thing is like the things that are happening to Asian Americans is tragic. I mean, they assaulted and the thing is, let's just say it's not just white people assaulting Asians. It's everybody. Everybody. You know what I mean? So let's just make that clear, because it's not just white people assaulting, Asian folks. So yes, and that's what my whole thing is. I think with this whole blackness going on like everywhere, right? Especially here in the United States, what I want to say to all my Asian Americans is that, look at all the civil rights movement was because of Black folks stepping up, being vocal, dying for it, bleeding for it. They're the ones that paved the way for us to have the civil rights that we have. And it, it allowed for immigration laws to be fairly legislated. I don't know if it's fair, but at least it has been legislated. That's how we, as immigrants, been able to come into the country, right? So I think, especially look at Black culture has such a large influence in like world culture, right? We have music, we have fashion, right? And so for everyone to benefit, even monetarily, even everyone's lives are being enriched by Black culture, for us to, for many people to stand by and allow racism to permeate through their community shows lack of respect and appreciation for what Black people all around the world has given us, everybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's what bothers me the most, for all the wonderful things that Black cultures all around the world has been able to enrich our lives with. We allow we allow anti-Blackness and racism to permeate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what just bothers the shit out of me. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just had to say that, man.
I totally understand.
Go ahead.
If people like love Black people as much as they do Black culture, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But it's just
no, this discussion would never exist.
Right. Right. And that's what my whole thing, and there are a lot of Asian Americans going out there participating and supporting the Black Lives Movement, because look at if Black Lives matter, our lives don't matter, right? And but what I have a problem with, and hopefully with this show and the other shows that I'm producing, is that we can get all the other cultures to move together. Because like in especially in the United States, the Asian Americans, like we rank the highest out of all the groups in the United States with as far as income, and we're like the highest educated, right? But there's a bigger gap between that and the lower, right? So that, to me, that tells me we have a lot of work to fill that gap. But that also tells me that if we band together, like everybody, then we can actually, if we can harness that, and we can, make some really good changes, but that's what I have a problem with. Like there's I think in the Jewish community, there's like 180 organizations, right? Jewish, right? Dude, they band together, and whatever goes wrong, they're like the first ones to be out there. That's what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, anyways, that's another thing. So those are two things. It's kind of like, look, we are underappreciated. Oh, we aren't showing the appreciation for Black culture, right? Or for what the Black culture has given the world, right? And then another thing is like, if we are that big of a influence in our community, I'm speaking in particular the Asians, like we should like really coalesce and let's get shit done. You know what I'm saying? Like we are the largest consumers of Nike, of Gucci, all these other brands. Like, dude, let's make this shit happen. Let's coalesce. Let's make big, the big corporations do what we need them to do in order for us to move forward. Anyways, I'm just putting it out there in the world. I'm not saying I don't like Nike. I love my Gucci shirts. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? Anyways, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, at least coalescing together and getting like what the Black Lives Movement been able to do is get everybody together, right? But I think individual groups need to do more work to educate themselves about the real history of your country, right? And then like acknowledge it, right? Because I think Asian people don't acknowledge the fact that, the Black Civil Rights Movement is the reason why I have rights here. You know what I'm saying? I think that has to happen as well. How do you guys feel about that? I'm just spouting. Go ahead.
I feel like the thing about Asian is like we are too humble. Like we are already blessed and grateful enough that we are able to live in this country and work in this country and feed our children here, that we would rather ignore all the problems because we just want to have a peaceful life ourselves. Right. That's how older generations always lived.
Yeah, but when a Korean dude gets kicks in the face, it takes a long time for that to get traction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like the Asian reaction, the basic Asian reaction to that is, oh yeah, those things kind of happen all the time. Yeah,
it's
normal.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Wardo, how do you feel about that?
Yes, I agree. I feel like the Asian community is kind of known for being kind of to themselves and not very assertive with things that they want to change. You know, they're
Right.
very calm, whereas a lot of other communities are very vocal, especially now about the things that they want to change. But I do think that the younger generation is a lot more vocal about these issues.
Yeah, I see a
I
change.
think it takes a little bit more time.
Yeah, because I think Asians are good at tiptoeing around the problem. Boy, we know how to work the system, you know what I'm saying? And we know how to be lawyers and doctors and all that stuff and teachers and whatever else. But the thing is when it comes to social matters, when it really matters, when it comes to the whole community benefiting from your success, that's what we have to transition into. You know, we can't just be individuals that are successful. You know what I mean? We have to bring everybody along. That's what Black folks been able to do. Is kind of almost like the opposite of Black folks. Not every Black person has been able to have, have the foundation and support to get the highest education. And then, but they work their ass off and they bring everyone else together. You just kind of the opposite kind of thing. So I think everyone can relate to the struggle because they talk about the struggle in the music, in the fashion, you know what I'm saying? So that to me is like, we have to kind of like, what has a bigger impact, Yeah, okay, I am highly educated, I own businesses, but I'm not doing anything for anyone else but myself.
Well,
Go ahead, Warda.
I didn't see it like that because I was watching this documentary on Netflix. I think it's called Living Black, and it was this African American man, and he was trying to spend he was trying to figure out how long it took before he had to buy out of like Black-owned businesses. So he wanted to sleep in Black-owned hotels, eat Black-owned food, and all that stuff. And actually, he did this like research, and the Asian community actually has the longest span of how they can like keep their money in their own community. Because I do feel like the Asian community, they go to their own shops and their own products, and I feel like that's really good. That's really good that that's going on, but I don't really see it the way that you.
What I mean, okay, so what? Yes, like they have Chinatown, right, and all that stuff. That's great, but that's for the Chinese and for like the Vietnamese, like for certain people, like they're good at like Japantown, Koreatown, but when it comes to, but that's just for business, right? That's what I'm saying. It's only like one-sided. When it comes to supporting the movement as everybody coming up, I mean, they have to battle like anti-Blackness and everything else, right? Because they have one or two bad experience with Black folks, and then the whole community all of a sudden feels that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's not how it goes. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, look at Chinatown is really powerful, Koreatown is powerful, Japantown, whatever town, right? But we gotta somehow put it together though and make real social change. Because again, if one Korean dude gets kicked in the face, right, and it takes 2 to 3 months for it to have traction, that's not, we're not standing up for that one person. And it's kind of like what it's kind of like what's happening here. All of a sudden, all the police, all the police bad stuff that they've been doing, like all the killings, right? All of a sudden, old cases are coming up. It's like, why did it take 6 months for all of a sudden? Because it's because of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so all these white people talking about Black Lives Matter isn't really doing anything. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll see how many other shit coming up, following this. Go ahead.
The thing about the Korean guy is like, maybe it didn't receive a lot of traction in traditional media, but I see that it has gotten really viral on the internet.
Right,
like,
which is young people, right? Which is young people, and that's what we have to.
Yeah, like this movement is actually really carried on by young people, and I saw it everywhere on Instagram, on Facebook. Like
Right.
within one day, I added myself into this Asian community on Facebook with all Asian Dutch people in it, and everybody started talking about him.
Right.
And like it only happened within one day.
Right. And young people are the ones that has to carry the torch. Like what TikTok did for the president over here was hilarious. Young people, dude, that was so funny. How
TikTokers and K-pop fans like
did
really
you hear about that?
was
Did you hear
amazing.
about that?
I heard about it. It was amazing. I laughed so
Did
hard.
you hear about it? Like Trump's rallies, right? He was bragging about, a million people, they want to join in. Well, that was 1 million teenagers and young people on TikTok,
And K-pop
signing
fans.
up for a K-pop fan. Yeah, they signed up for the march, but they all didn't go.
Oh yeah, I read about yes.
Yeah, you should look at it. It's so funny. Like tons of teenagers, TikTok users, and K-pop stans have rallied against Trump. It was so great.
Yeah.
But they're posting like K-pop videos on every like racist topic
on hashtag White Lives Matter. It was full of K-pop fan camps.
Yeah. So I mean, look, we're not shitting on white people. There are a lot of good white people, man.
Yeah, I love my friends.
There's a lot of. We're just saying. I think the establishment has to change. There has to be more representation. We have to have more people that look like us, and we need more women. We need more women in place to help legislate laws. And that's my thing. I think we have too many old men making decisions for the world. And that has to change immediately. Like when we look at examples around the world where like Germany, New Zealand, and these other countries where they are led by women, come on, man, they're thriving. They're getting shit done. Women communicate differently. They communicate better, especially the leaders that we have around the world. So we just need more women in place, baby. That's all I'm saying. What do you guys think about that?
Totally agree.
I agree.
But that's the same. We're gonna, going back to the same point. How do we get in there? That's the whole issue. Because I've noticed even when we had like, Putri, you remember that, like in our final year of our in college, we had to do like internships, and it was so hard to find an internship. And I remember a classmate of mine, also like a woman of color, and she was applying. She also has a foreign last name, applying for this job application for a hospital, and she got this immediate response like, "Oh, that was an old vacancy, but it's the job is already filled." And like I think like 2 weeks later, we were sitting there with our teacher, and she was asking us, "Oh, do you have any interviews lined up?" And literally our classmate just was referring to the same job application that she has an interview coming up. And that's just this whole situation of like, is it really because of the last name, or was it just a coincidence that it went wrong? So
I would say it's profiling someone.
Yeah,
that's hard to figure out.
I really want to believe it's a coincidence, but it happens so often.
Yeah.
And imagine so school and the workplace is same stupid thing, you know what I mean? So.
And that's where the changes happen in workplaces and school play. Yeah.
So I love the Moroccan culture. The great thing about living in the Bay Area, right, is we have many African cultures here. I have a lot of Ethiopian, Eritrean, Nigerian friends. I have Moroccan friends. I have friends from Senegal. It's almost, Africa is well represented here in the Bay Area. Love the food, love the culture, love the music. Let's talk about the Moroccan culture, Ouarda.
Yeah, Moroccan culture is more like an Arabic culture. In Arab, it's language as well. In the Netherlands, there are a lot of Moroccan people, but they don't often look like me. I'm a lot darker than your typical Moroccan person.
Right.
So, but I love the culture too. It's really, amazing food, and it's just, but we have kind of a bad name here in the Netherlands, I must say.
A bad name? Let's talk about it.
Well, I feel like the younger generation, our grandparents came here as working immigrants, but now it's like it's more of a lot of people feel like we bring criminality, which is, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's this whole image that people have.
Right.
Of Moroccan people.
That's how we look at immigrants, period. You know what I mean? That's so. But let's talk a little bit more about the Moroccan culture. So I've been watching a lot of travel stuff, and Morocco is another place I want to go visit once it's safe to travel again. But just the architecture, right? Even architecture, clothes.
I love the architecture.
Dude, it's so amazing.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and yeah, so were you brought up with a lot of those Moroccan ideals and Arab ideals, or what?
Well, unfortunately, I don't speak Arabic or Moroccan. I think
Don't
it's just
feel
because
bad. Don't feel.
yeah, I kind of feel bad about it, but
Yeah.
the culture is really, I'm Muslim as well, and that culture and the religion is a big part of my life. So definitely, my dad definitely raised us in like more of a Moroccan kind of traditional way.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I almost married a Bosnian Muslim. So
Oh, really?
that was only. You look at. There were other reasons why we didn't get married. It's not because she was Muslim. Right? For me, my experience with most of my friends and most of my experience with Muslims have been amazing. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the whole. There's a lot of bad Filipinos and there's a lot of bad Filipino Catholics out there. So and I'll say it. There's a bunch of bad Filipino Catholics out there.
I mean, my experience with the Muslim community is slightly different than other people's, because like in other countries, the Muslim community might be a minority, but
Right.
in Indonesia, it's actually the majority, and
Right.
I am the minority as a Christian.
Right.
So like in my feelings, like it has always been the Muslim government, the Muslim community, like
Right.
making all the rules here in my country. I don't say that they are bad. There are really nice people around, but like it's really difficult to
Yeah, when you're a minority in any country, it's an uphill battle. It doesn't matter whether religion or politics. It's an uphill battle. Period. But
for me, it's just complete opposite. It's me being the minority.
Yeah, but when you're traveling to a different country for a better life, for a better life for your family, for yourself, it's an uphill battle. That's just part of the experience. You're just hoping the country that you live in will have legislation and laws that support you as well, not just the majority. That's what we're all hoping.
Well, I feel like I agree with you guys. I feel like it's the same thing with like more of a affirmative action situation that they had in the United States, but that is not something that is legislated here at all. So for us, it's totally, they don't have to have a certain percentage of Asian group or Black people or whatever. So it's even more difficult to get in those groups. And I feel like that is an issue that definitely needs to be addressed here a lot more.
Some parties here are trying to like get a certain number to have a certain number of women being in one company.
Even let's talk about that. Even having more women in what is it? Is it Parliament up there?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, so what's the government looking like over there for as far as having more women and representation up there? Ladies,
still a lot of men.
Yeah, a lot of white men. That's
a lot of white men. Like, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of white men talking about issues about us.
Yeah, but there's this group now in Parliament that's, I believe it's 2 Turkish men and a Moroccan man, but they're not really doing good at all in the polls. It's horrible.
Their internal situation is a big mess.
Yeah, and that's kind of like embarrassing as well.
Right. That's sad because they could be. I was rooting for them actually, but then they got this whole internal mess. I'm like,
you have one group representing you, but I feel like it's the start. You know, I feel like maybe in a couple of years we'll have some more representation.
Yeah.
But right now it's messy.
Well, I remember a few years ago, like the whole Sylvana Simons thing.
Yes.
Yeah, Sylvana Simons is a black lady, and she was trying to get into the parliament, and her opinions were very vocal about anti-blackness here, but everybody started a lot of white folks started bombarding hate towards her, and then she was also one of the prominent figures that started to gain awareness for the anti-black people movement.
Yeah.
All right, so just to make this conversation lighter, let's talk about both of you, how you guys met, and yeah, so let's lighten this show up. My gosh, so
started to show
lighten it up. So from what I hear, you guys met in school, right? In Korea?
College.
No.
Oh, okay, my bad. No, you went to Korea for school, right?
I went to Korea.
Okay, my bad. Okay, enough talking from me. Go ahead, ladies.
Ouarda and I met 4 years ago during our bachelor studies communication in Eindhoven. We were classmates.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know how we exactly met. We just suddenly started talking to each other. I remember like Ouarda coming after our camp. She wasn't there, so she was kind of all alone in the classroom in the beginning, and then we just started talking.
I don't know if it's just me, but I always kind of gravitate towards other people of color when I'm in like an all-white environment. So it just always.
Absolutely, that's what we do. That's how we feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for me, that was actually a really new. For me, it was something new. I actually never saw a person of color, like barely. In my elementary school, I was literally the only Asian, and in high school, I had a Chinese classmate, and all teachers thought I was her, she was me.
Right.
Yeah, I think in my high school, I only met around three Asians and more Moroccan people, but I didn't really get to be friends with them. I just, they were just really weren't my kind of people. That's another discussion. But then I entered college, and that was actually the very first moment I really engaged with people of color. It was really new experience for me, like to meet Ouarda and other people.
Right.
I feel like we've grown so much as well, because I remember back in college, there was some silent racism, but we weren't as vocal about it as we are now.
Right.
Yeah, we just sucked it up. I thought it was normal.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit like, so do you guys feel uncomfortable when you guys are around, it doesn't have to be white people, but like if you're the only type of person in a group, do you feel uncomfortable?
I don't really. I'm used to it.
Really? You know what? I actually like that, because being around Black people, you know, what that told me, like they have so much confidence. Like I've had so many friends that embrace their Blackness, right? So that's what I love about what they taught me. It's like, because Black folks have this swag about them, right? So that's what I had to bring. That's what I got a lot from them, is that swagoo confidence. So when I go into a situation where I am the minority, like I've always been like, most of my relationship has been interracial, right? So I've always been the only Asian dude that come visit a family, but I like that.
I can certainly agree with you. Yes, like I'm used to being the only Asian in groups, and after a journey of learning how to accept myself, I also started to embrace it. Like I don't mind being the only Asian in the group now, so I can bring my culture to them, and if they are really my friends, they would love to hear about it more. And yeah.
How about you?
I prefer a more diverse group. I'm always very happy when I go somewhere and like have to do something in groups, and there's someone else that has that same kind of experience as I do, because I am now studying to become a teacher. And even there, when you're, thank you, when you're around, like, I remember this comment that one of the white ladies made. It was just about this black co-host on this show, and about him being, oh, I don't like that, you know, black guy. And it was just really hard when you're the only person of color to kind of speak up, because you feel like you're that angry black woman when you say these.
You feel like you need to shut up.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm being overly sensitive, when you're not. But it's just, you know, so that's why.
Yeah, I also agree with you on that. Like, I would also appreciate more diversity in group chat, because like it's a good and a bad thing that I'm used to being the only person of color.
I feel like I'm not only representing as an Asian dude, I feel like I'm representing for every minority group. That's how I kind of look at it. That's how, like, that's what hip hop has done for me. And hip hop is so global, right? And Asians have gravitated to hip hop. They've hold on to it. A lot of them participated in now. Bruno Mars, that's my guy. You know, we gotta take, look at, you know, even with the whole K-pop thing, I feel like, look at
that has opened a lot of eyes.
There's so many things that we can grab onto. I think especially for Asian men. I just happen to be a confident guy because I've hung around with enough black confident guys. So big ups to all my black brothers, you know what I mean? So anyway, so how does that even come with women though, being women in minority groups? Who do you guys look up to?
Well, what really helped me in accepting myself and gaining confidence was actually K-pop.
Okay, everybody's got, how about you, Ouarda?
Well, it's very cliche, but I feel like seeing women in entertainment like Beyonce, Rihanna, that look, you know, like have the same, you know, our brown-skinned woman in the media, it just really helps growing up, especially when you see a lot of the white images around you as the ideal of beauty.
Yeah.
Having, you know, I think that's super important. So
yeah,
I'm really happy that exists.
That's exactly what I have with K-pop, like seeing Asian people, like Asian people shining on stage with fancy clothes, and like I really looked up to Girls' Generation, like Asian women shining, and me as a little kid, like I absolutely adored seeing them. So that makes it like we have to wrap it out now. I would like to thank Ouarda for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Like we talked about everything and anything, and it was really fun. I think like we had a great time educating ourselves and other people.
Absolutely. All right, world. Thank you for your ears, your heart, and your mind. And till we meet again, sayonara.